pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Minutes for Tuesday, January 20th.
Mr. Chairman, I noticed in there that it stated that Matt Henderson showed up at 2:10 back to back.
Yeah, it'll be on page 1.
It was duplication on page.
Oh, duplication? Okay.
Yeah.
And then on page 2, there was a duplication too.
Yeah.
The last paragraph on page 1 is duplicated on the beginning of page 2, so.
Yeah, that's true too.
It's better to have too much than not enough.
Okay, I just want to be sure people knew that.
Exactly. Well, you want to check and see if we read that, don't you? There you
I
go.
just throw those in for one.
That's
Okay,
what it-
duplication,
Yeah.
2 duplications, okay.
With those changes, Mr. Chairman, I approve the minutes.
Second it?
Motion is second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The committee reports for the week.
I have JCAT coming in Thursday, but I won't be able to attend.
Community corrections, tomorrow. Adult corrections. Yeah, we've rescheduled to meet with Leavenworth on Monday at 10:30.
At 10:30?
Yes.
We want to meet here, or what, or we want to school with this, or probably need.
I think you can only have one of the two of you meet unless you want to meet in an open session. So one commissioner,
Okay.
or if we can have an open session, and have time for discussion, there's an open session.
At Leavenworth?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what I think.
I'm sorry. No, you're fine. You're
Yeah,
fine.
Leavenworth next, it'll be their work session.
I was thinking of our Friday meeting with, never mind, our
Okay.
Friday meeting with Tex.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
we're
we're-
perfect there. You can all go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably appoint it so I can go from there, so I probably
You can
try to
accept,
separate.
okay.
I'm not sure what Pat's.
I haven't looked at the rest of my day.
February 2nd?
Yes.
From my house.
I have an appointment down in Leavenworth at 1, so I'll probably separate and just stay together.
Okay. Okay.
No, no, just let me meet you at your point, that'd be better. Oh, that's true, you may not, okay.
I'll call you Sunday night.
That's fine, that's right. Well, when's your, oh,
Thursday.
Thursday, oh, you have your surgery Thursday, oh, okay. All right. Yeah, just play it by ear. Play it by ear.
Connie is first on the agenda with chemical bids for 2015.
I'm already.
Yeah, it's almost warm enough to spray.
I know. I just put a little packet together that shows, kind of what I was looking at for this year, and I enclosed the last 3 years prior to that as well. Which, when you look at the last 3 years, but what we use is different because of Mother Nature usually. And she hasn't let us know what she's got on tap this year, so it's always kind of a guessing game. And I went back and even looked over historically over the last 10, 15 years, and I mean, there's there's a spike every once in a while. Last year we sold Tordon compared to 2009, 2002 numbers. I mean, it's 2002, 2009, and then last year were the comparisons. So I didn't go back and look at weather reports, but I know we did have an early spring in 2009. It was really nice that year, a little wet. But last year, we had some carryover from Fort On because we had the drought the year before. So there wasn't a whole lot of spraying going on in 2012, so we had a lot of carryover in 2013 at Fort On. Last year, we only ordered 360 gallons, and I am completely out of Fort On now. I pulled out last week, and there's some farmers that are itching to get some on already, so.
Probably gonna incorporate it with their pasture spray.
Yeah.
Liquid application.
Yeah, exactly, so, that's why I thought maybe, I did have a local applicator call me, and I told him that I'd try to come before you guys a little early, and maybe we could bump it up a little bit earlier than we do normally. Usually we open bids the last week of February, and then they deliver chemical the first part of March. And since I have one full pallet of, 240 Roval, well, missing 2.5 gallons, but basically a full pallet, and then about 2/3 of a pallet of amine, which they won't typically start spraying that until a little bit later anyway, though. I'm comfortable, with ordering a little bit earlier if you guys are. I mean, we're talking about 2 weeks probably, and earlier. So I looked tentatively, I don't know what your guys' schedule looks like for the 17th of February for opening bids.
Oh, so we're not opening bids today?
No, this is just to put it out there
Okay.
for me to advertise for bids and then.
So these are bids from last year, then, all these?
Yeah, I highlighted the years on there.
2013.
Those are the winning bids, yep, last year it was, Stillman Fertilizer that you guys decided upon. And working with them was really easy and very nice, to do so. The year before that was Midwest Fertilizer, and then before that was CPS out of Colorado, which is really nice working with local companies.
How many companies do you typically solicit bids from?
There's about 5 that we send it to. Most of them are local companies like Midwest and, Spillman. They're getting most of their bids from Van Deest anyway, they're getting them from the same rep. So, there's, Red River, which is an independent, Helena, which is an independent, CPS, which is independent, and then Van Deest is feeding these smaller local, operators here, so. Jackson farmers will solicit, they'll go ahead and put a bid in too, but they'll use different companies.
Do you talk with any other, like, noxious weed directors, like, around the few counties? What are they seeing, or who are they soliciting bids from, or?
It's the same companies. These, dealers will actually come to our regional Northeast meetings, and they've kind of all established a relationship with all of them around here. But I have been talking with all of those other local noxious weed directors and kind of seeing what they are using and how they're doing their bid process. We, several years ago, moved to an all or none, which is, we look at Stillman and maybe Midwest or Red River or somebody else had cheaper escort, but overall the bid looks better, so we went with this as a whole. A lot of other counties, and in the past, we did it here too, we would piece it out. It becomes a little bit of a bookkeeping issue, but then you can try different products too, because like Helena has its own 240 called Hardball. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it has a different chemical component as opposed to amine. It's less volatile, and I really would be interested in trying that at some point. Brown County, I guess all of them are really, it's a little bit more expensive, but you don't put as much on, and so they're kind of, Georgia from Brown County is transitioning his farmers into it, and they're all really happy with it. So, Nemaha County, he said, kind of half and half. Once you can get them to try it, they're a little afraid of the price. But what I'm getting at is that at some point I would like to go ahead and go back to that, maybe where we don't take it all. But I wasn't ready to do that this year.
Well, I wasn't necessarily thinking about that with some of the other counties, but, you know, sometimes, you know, we've had other counties tell us they would let us piggyback off some of their contracts. So if they go out to bid, Leavenworth County goes out to bid and they get X or something like that, they've let us, you know, piggyback off of them.
Right. And I think Bill, the Mandy's rep, and all the other reps, they've all established a really good working relationship with all of the noxious weed directors coming to those meetings, and I think that they pretty well give the same price to all the counties anyway. That's my kind of,
Yeah, volume.
yeah. They, I mean, some of the other counties around, Jackson County, of course, has a lot more pasture than we do today, or a lot more, so they might get just a little bit better break, but I think, you know, as far as, we order at a different time than they do too, so it's kind of a different, some of the counties will order last thing in the fall, and then they'll carry it over into next year, instead of ordering in the spring.
You see any correlation with maybe decreased usage because of pasture taking out the indoor? I mean, have you ever seen any figures about how much, say over the last 5 years, how much less pasture, or is there any correlation, or really that's not necessarily, we never asked you to do that, but I'm just wondering.
I haven't noticed a whole lot, I see more of a correlation between the weather than that, but I know the pasture that's still in CRP, a lot of it, I see a direct spike in sales whenever those letters go out to the CRP landowners, to take care of their noxious weeds. That next week after those letters went out was very, very busy after those inspections, so I did see that correlation. So it was
At least
very
they're taking action as far as they're doing.
Yeah.
I didn't know, I mean, I don't understand all the exact rules, I just was hoping that some guys aren't abusing, using it in a row crop situation, which is hard to, it's gonna be hard to, to manage per se, but, it just, it'd be interesting, here again, I don't know whether, from what I've been told, it'd be kind of hard to access that information, the government, federal government doesn't, they won't even share with our appraiser and stuff down there, information, so they even share that with us, I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of the trends we can just see from observing, and I don't think that the 2,4-D is being abused, or even the Tordon. I think maybe the remedy, some of that, I think that is probably getting used on brush. Try to think that the person that's not applicating it in that manner, but if they're spraying it on brush, then they're probably, if they have Sericea, then they're probably going to be spraying it on the Sericea as well. So we do make sure that they, when I sell it to them, that they have the acreage. I mean,
Yeah.
Obviously, if I own an acre and a half, I'm not.
I'm guilty of that, because when I put it on this sprayer, I spray everything. I didn't know that was illegal.
Well, you're spraying, as long as you're spraying your noxious weed.
I'm spraying the noxious weeds, the ants, the locusts.
But you can broadcast spray for noxious weeds. So, I mean, it's, yeah.
Thorny locust ought to be considered noxious, whether it's a weed or a plant or anything.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I can live with hedge, but I cannot stand thorny locust.
Yeah, I went to a Van-Dees, seminar the other day, and that's what they kept talking about. You wanna make sure you're not doing this so that you don't kill the trees. Let's have to look, do this. He was kind of saying the same.
Kids kill all cedar.
There was something.
Chainsaw.
Yeah. There is something that they're working on that will, but I don't know that they've seen really good results with it yet or not.
Not very Christmassy, I mean.
That
give,
that's our
somebody
only
maybe depend on
farmer.
that as a free Christmas tree.
I think there's plenty of cedar trees out
You
there.
think so?
Yeah, we multiply it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
It
think.
should be a noxious weed, or noxious something.
Well, it's native, there's only one native plant on the noxious weed list. And we don't have it here because it's pig nut. It's more of a western Kansas thing. So it's the only one. Typically, the weeds that are on the noxious weed list are not native. And they don't have, that's the problem with eastern red cedar though, is that it doesn't have any natural enemies because it is so persistent. The only natural enemy is fire. Which we don't do much anymore, so.
Do we want to leave that date in case I can change my schedule, because I would be here on the 17th. Unless I get my, if we decide to meet on that Friday, if I got my schedule, I mean, do you guys want to consider that, or you might want to just go ahead and act on the bids on the 10th? If you can, we have enough time to get them in by the 10th.
Just gotta publish it.
Yeah, might be pushing it.
You said 17.
Were you looking at meeting that Friday instead?
That's what she said, that she,
Yeah.
the 17th, I don't know, yeah, that's the.
Are you still gonna have a regular session that day?
Yeah, it's just that, Cushman doesn't know what will be present. That'd be another job.
This last day of the 10th.
So,
You didn't ask me.
Hmm?
Did you ask?
how long do you need to publish it?
Publish it twice. But I could probably get it in,
Think you enough time, or can you get,
I could get it in this Saturday and next Wednesday, which would be the,
would you get bids back from time to time?
yeah, I email it, I mean, publishing is just a formality, yeah. I email it to the.
The bids will be in their hands.
I think that's maybe for the 7th.
We ought to shoot on that day too, I think by then we ought to know 14 books should be cleared, and I think Wes will be able to help us. I think we want to make sure your gets transferred this
Capital outlay?
year.
Okay, he wanted me to ask you that, so you're looking at doing that on February 10th?
We'll do that, yeah, because in case something slips in, maybe not here, they got to this Friday, but by the time everything hits the system, then we'll know what kind of. He should be able to help us access that amount pretty close, so.
Send the email out, and I'm gonna repeat the work on the 10th. Say 11:30, 12:30, commission meeting.
What time?
11:30, 12:30.
Did you want that in the Globe?
No.
I think you're bringing your smoker.
After I bring in 12 people, if you're after that, you snooze, you lose. Send it to the department heads, if they won't come up.
All department heads, or,
One's here at courthouse,
okay, for him.
No, I want you to hold that meeting on that meeting.
and
What do you already? Because some of them take them.
Yeah, it should.
Should I catch that? Okay.
Or 11:30 to 1. Just so we're going to rate at 1.
You can come up with 12:30 and look at people and have it for you.
I think that'll give us enough time to open bids by that day, and do that, and then we'll do the capital outlay stuff by then.
What time?
1:30, is that okay? Does that work for you?
I mean, early in the kitchen. We're gonna look at.
But keep in mind, if there's something else that we need to act on, that you want here, we could have a special meeting on that Friday. I mean, I think I can get it arranged, get my schedule changed.
Yeah, I can go back this afternoon and get it in the paper for next week, or for Saturday and Wednesday, and then get everything emailed out to them, because, I mean, I just need your approval to go ahead and do it, so.
if we roughly the same, a lot higher, a lot cheaper?
I asked the reps and they said they think it's stable, so it should be about the same. Based on last year's figures, what I put in front of you is 91,764.
But you're buying a little more.
Buying a lot more with the Tordon, yeah. The Tordon itself is $32,000.
Is there something that requires us to buy certain amounts, or is that just you're doing it at the request of?
Usage, yeah, that's pretty much what they're using. Tordon's a lot more, but you only use 8 ounces to the acre.
And it's got residual.
And it's got 2-year residual. It's the only restricted use pesticide that I sell. Which the milestone, I think we're gonna see a surge in milestone this year, just based on the calls that I've already gotten. I think Baker's is kind of pushing it because it's not a restricted use pesticide, but, so anybody can buy it without a private pesticide applicator's license. Because there's a little residual, but not like there is in Tordon. So I think we're gonna see an increase in that. So I wanted to leave the milestone the same. I increased the escort, but it's only $3.89 an ounce, so we're not seeing a whole lot of, and I think most people were you happy with the escort? I think a lot of people are really happy with it, and it's not expensive to put on, so.
She's a little bit late, but she will.
And you'll probably see some results yet this spring from it too, so. Okay. If you're good with that, then I'll put it in there. And I also wanted to bring up to speed too, I met with, KDOT, Terry Smith, and Robbie Weiser and Matt Watkins, and they were concerned because, the roadside, they felt over the past few years, quite a few years, I think, weren't up to their standard.
Are they talking about the state highway?
State highways,
Okay.
yeah, which we have a contract to spray those for noxious weeds. Not all counties do that, but most of the counties in our service area do. They don't wanna pay for it though, so like George in Brown County spends about $7,000, or charges them about $7,000 as a trend. We've kind of been in the $3,000 range for quite a few years. They wanna stay in that $3,000 range without the results of what they did in Brown County, so I don't know how that's all gonna work out for them.
So we're not mandated to do it, is what you're saying?
Well, our contract,
How long contract is it?
it's an annual one.
It's an annual one.
Mhm. And at some point, I'm wondering if that's worth our effort. I just want to put that bug in your,
If they're gonna complain, I mean, maybe we need to pull a few roads down underneath their feet like they pull out underneath us.
yeah, and that's kind of how I felt. They don't have money to spend, and they called me and said, don't spray anything else. This was several months ago. Don't spray anything else because we're out of money.
Who's saying this, KDOT?
And so then when he met with me, he's like, well, we don't have the money. Yeah, well, then he comes back and says, well, we'll just have to move it around.
How can that be? The rest of those things in such great financial shape.
Yeah. So, but he said, because I said, well, I talked to, I let him know that I've been talking to the other weed directors and finding out what they did, what their weed management plan is for the state highways.
I know 1 year and it's twice as bad, next year's gonna cost you $600.
Right. Brown County does a fall application of Tordon, and he pretty well broadcast sprays a third of the county, third of the state highways, and a third of the county roads each fall. So he's kind of on a completely different schedule than we are, putting it on in the spring. So it would be hard to transition to something like that, having been done in the spring for so many years. So I'm not saying that we would be able to do that, but, there's other ways of skinning the cat. But I don't know what the solution is. It's been there were a lot of years where it wasn't taken care of like it should have been. And so now that's all kind of catching up.
You know, sometimes that's, it comes back to Ozzy later on, so,
Yeah.
and they expect you to do that catch-up with the
All in,
same time.
all in 1 year with the same amount of money.
Mhm.
Yep. So I talked to Matt, and, kind of got him on the same page as far as needing John to spray maybe a little bit earlier and getting out there and, like on 7 and 73, on the right of ways further off, where the truck doesn't spray, because that truck is so heavy that it can't leave the road. So getting out there with the gator, and maybe at some point looking at maybe buying a 4-wheeler. Jackson County has 2 4-wheelers that they use to do all of 73. That's how they're able to maintain it, because there's 2 guys out there spraying at the same time.
You buy one of them, I know there's a lot of usage on how much spray.
It would, wouldn't it? So, I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that meeting. He was a little forceful in his persuasion. But, let him know we do the best that we could.
With the money we have to operate with,
Mm-hmm.
we've only got so much in our budget.
Right, and he asked me for an estimate, and I'm gonna provide that estimate for him, and it's not gonna be what it was last year. So, we'll see if he yays or nays.
Sounds good.
All right,
See you on the 10th.
yes, thank you.
Sanitation code here.
Well, we don't, the statute requires it to be approved by KDHE before we have our hearing. I wrote to Beth Rovens, with KDHE's, our area rep, not received a response from her. I just yesterday called the office to talk to her, because I didn't realize it was on, until I have not talked to her, I left a message for her. But it has to be approved by them before we publish it in our hearing. So, the ball's in their court. And you might recall, I don't know if you were here. I think, because it was right after, Leonard had submitted it maybe a year before we got it back from KDHE for approval. Now hopefully that's sped up a little bit now, but it took a year, for review back then. Now, we're only modifying some pretty small things, but it's in that road and score, James Farmer Company.
Give you guys something to do.
Chairman Shealy, I put to a draft, I think it's a final draft, of the invitation for bids out there for lease purchase financing. So this is very similar to the RFP we did, or IFB that we did before. Just occurred to me, it might be good to have in there not only the interest rate, but also the annual payment. I know we could do the math and figure it out, but we
like the, paragraph on restrictions upon further repayment, but. So you're back on the third sheet, at the manual.
Yeah. Could just be another line. Actually, maybe even on one line. Like, yeah, easily could even add it, say, on one page.
That's probably not a bad idea. So like total annual payment. I think it's acceptable with that change. Any questions on that?
Which one is on the lease, okay, is he changing?
So after each proposal, instead of just having the percent rate, the total annual payment. Have a line with total annual payment.
And, yeah, too, yeah.
As well in there, I think it's a pretty good addition.
Mhm.
Everything else looks pretty good. Strictly on 5 years.
Those amounts, would they meet our needs depending on which, I mean, the first amount would probably cover with no use of his capital improvement or his capital outlay money.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, I don't think that would cover. That would only about cover the grader, or possibly the grader. But, I mean, I think we have to develop a little strategy or feeling as to,
See, I thought we come up with figures of 160 for the truck, the 225 was a grader, and if we did both, it was for 7.
that's what you was thinking, okay.
But it don't quite add up, like, that's a 15,000 difference. I think when we said that, that's what we think.
So I need one of those signed by Commissioner Shealy to get circulated.
You're gonna add in that total annual payment? Need a motion to sign with those changes.
Mr. Chairman,
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So I see it's on page 2. Try to go more visual over there. Otherwise you get stacked of papers.
Yeah. I know.
amount of $2,815.28 from KCAM. Credit burn.
That may be the commissioner of the county.
I think it's the safety committee for their, they have so many safety meetings, so many different, training
All
sessions.
trained, they have, yeah, that's true. Mhm.
It's all like.
So that would go into their, under that
That's-
safety
that's-
concern.
I just thought you'd like to see it.
Okay, fair enough.
Is that the same letter? Is that the same letter?
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're all introduced when it's written.
They have a lot of time.
Let's address the county commissioners. What's the first name on the individual?
Could have heard it, Tony?
Not Tony.
Tony or Anthony?
Tony
Burnett.
Lindner. And he is the inmate, or this is somebody else? He's right on behalf of an inmate. Is that correct? He's not 66.
No, no, he's not. He may be doing, he's not mental, but he's
So he's running it on behalf of,
55 probably.
so who is the actual inmate that they're
Well,
referencing?
I think you probably want to go into executive session if you want to discuss. I don't know the answer to your question. I don't
Okay.
know the answer to your question, but
Okay.
if we're going to discuss the specifics of it, I think you want to go into executive session.
We'll I do that here for the meeting. That's okay with you?
If the sheriff is not here today, he's out on training, so if you wanted to have, him or Travis or somebody who knew what was going on in town today, would be good to do. You and Travis are at the training.
Yeah, I don't think it's an urgent issue at this point.
We gave it back.
Do you know if, the townships, how the, because we didn't get anything saying the 15.
You get a direct deposit.
Yeah, but we didn't get anything from the bank saying anything about the policy. So,
Who did, does it go to you or it's not to?
Tony's the new clerk, but
Let's bond it.
he's the treasurer, but he said that he hasn't
We have
received
to
it.
vote. You don't talk to Sheila.
Yeah, we had a meeting last night, and we assumed we had money, but we
I
haven't.
don't know if it's direct deposit or is it a check, you might have to ask.
I'll ask.
Pat, do you want me to contact the Effingham City Council, make sure they sign there and send in, and just, we gotta change the front page wording of the year.
Somebody needs to.
Okay. Well, you got Lancaster, you sent me the SCOTUS, didn't you?
I thought so.
With the correction, I can't,
Send it again.
why don't you, but go ahead and correct that front page, so once they sign it, it'll be done. And you've got Huron's and Lancaster, and all we have to do is change the front page on those. Because it has the wrong year on there. we have to do anything on this resolution today? Solid waste.
Yeah, that's why,
Mike, it still says 2014 on the one I have.
The one of the SCOTUS?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say before you send it, just modify.
I'll do that.
well, you're gonna need a resolution number, please. I think when Chase left a copy of the new solid waste with the updated wording on the resolution should be on the desk.
Yeah, okay, can you give me a resolution number?
Should they ask, like, has the resolution number 2015 dash? You found it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that looks like you got it.
Yeah, so, what you're seeing is that, 5th paragraph down there.
The second one from the bottom.
Yeah.
Be it further resolved, individual Atchison County residences that are owned and maintained.
Oh, with that one as well, look under, just under the 1750 per half ton, this rate shall apply, that's also changed to what the committee had said, 1,000 pounds per account, instead of the 1750 per. That's been a big change.
That's the same, isn't it? 1750, yeah, per half ton.
No, right below it, remember this morning, he had,
Oh, I see.
1750 credit for that paragraph right below it replaced that.
Gotcha.
Was what the county suggested, 1,000 pounds.
Got it, yeah, that's,
Okay.
looks like you got it.
Oh,
take a look at it.
yeah, I'm sorry, I got this one, yes, there it is. Okay, sorry. Mike. 1403.
So we've got resolution number 2015-1403. This is the updated resolution, that replaces, 2013-1375, is that correct, Pat? Would replace that resolution on the tipping
Uh-huh.
fee. Everybody has it. This was recommended as a recommendation of solid waste committee to pass this with the commission.
Which it is added, as there can, we would adopt the resolution 2015-1430.
1403.
1403, Steve.
I second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any further discussion?
Two or three signed copies.
Yeah. Motion carries 3-0.
Yeah.
Okay, we met for off-system.
Yeah, I did a little bit of dig on some, land, to talk about, we're trying to go into executive session now.
Oh, okay. For the house bridge.
Yeah, on, Sherman 266.
Okay, we're about at 15 minutes. Come back or after.
Problem.
Okay. So the acquisitions of the vestiture, is that?
That one, trash.
Got a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion and second to go into executive session till 2:15 with Pat Henderson, Matt Dorson, and Commission. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
And when are the letters looking back from the banks on the interest? So it's,
Have you got your specs and stuff on the grader?
yeah, I got them wrote up. I plan on sending them out here the next couple, here pretty quick. I was wondering,
I would schedule them. Well, probably not publishing, but I mean, we better shoot for the tenth on that one too.
Matt and I have also talked about the railroad, the Union Pacific Railroad gave us a right of entry agreement, and that right of entry agreement has a requirement for about 5 different types of insurance certifications to provide. This is a copy of the contract that we have with our contractor. We don't know whether the original's been signed yet or not, but I'm not saying that it's addressed in the contract. Obviously, I've not read the whole thing. As to whose responsibility it is to procure the insurance. I know that when Mr. Bennett was discussing the situation with us, he was saying it was something that was the obligation of the contractor. It doesn't say, and presumably they would add that into their bid, so it's not like you're not paying for it, you're paying for everything. But I don't see that it's addressed in there, so we may have an additional unforeseen expense come up in terms of getting the right of entry agreement with the railroad. So I just got these today. There's another set of drawings that I haven't looked at, but it was so big I didn't bring it up, and I don't know, it might be addressed in there, but man, what the big that was addressed. So, and I don't know, are you familiar with the, was it the long-eared bat? Made it into the northern long-eared bat. It's made it into the contract, but apparently who pays for insurance is not, so, or even the requirement that they have insurance, I don't see it saying.
you didn't happen to talk to that lady from BG, like, if you remember?
Yeah, I did.
What'd she say about it?
She didn't know, and then she said, well, the contract's done by KDOT,
Right.
not by us.
But if BG doesn't tell anybody that, it,
Yeah, I agree with you, but, she had no idea what was in the contract
because she took it over after Tom Bennett. She inherited it because Tom Bennett's basically retired now.
So, still trying to find out whether or not it's addressed before we start trying to find out why it's not addressed. Because I would hate to send a, hey, you should have included this in the regular letter back, oh, yes, it's in the usual order that you read.
Now that we know what the ground we bought, let's say this goes on into farming season and they plant it, do we have to pay?
It's our land. They asked for our permission to harvest it, and we.
But I'm talking about next year, they planted it, that's all.
yeah, I've actually, the motor grader bid is scheduled to be open on the 10th, so.
I'm gonna be busy boys at 10.
What's that?
I'm gonna be busy at 10, come up and eat pizza on the 10th.
Would you rather do it? I mean, it shouldn't take too, I mean, we're not gonna make a decision, we'll just open them and, it'll,
You'll probably make a decision, but you make a decision because.
well, there might not be a decision to make actually,
Oh,
because, I talked to Dean with Cat, and he said they're even struggling with business, because he basically said that, you know, they're not going with it. So they've been getting beat by $20,000 on every bid lately, and, actually, they might not even turn in a bid. He said he was gonna talk with his boss and discuss it. He said right now, if you go with a 5-year buyback, he said John Deere's got it buttoned up, and he said that's the best 5-year buy right now. And that's coming from Cat Felton. So,
Well, we still have to get, you know, we still need to get at least,
just a little.
solicit bids, so
Right.
we can't just.
well, I'll send, I was planning on sending one to Cat, one to Deere, and publish it in the paper.
Sure.
And so that we should be,
Open up.
we can, hopefully they'll bid it, just so we have two. He said he wants to off, but he said that right now it wasn't looking good for him.
Yeah, I was hoping somewhere along the line would be able to have like 2 of each, so you can compare.
Yeah, and he thought maybe in a few years it might change, come back around to their favor, because, he said all the third world countries, that right now they're building these tier 3 final machines, and, he thinks they're gonna flood the market with these things because these third world countries don't want them. They want the old machines that don't have all the emissions on them. And he thinks there's gonna be a lot of graders out there in 4 or 5 years that the market's flooded and they're not gonna be able to get rid of them. So, that's the way to say it. I mean, we've got a guaranteed buyback on what we have, but
So the new.
he thinks that guaranteed buyback is gonna hurt Deere in the long run.
Okay,
So,
is this telling me that John Deere's cutting a good deal, and they're gonna just kind of maybe say break even or make a little bit for 5 years, and when you buy that next one, that's when they're gonna load it up?
well, I can't say for sure, but he says that, right now, that's what, Deere is pushing as their motor graders, that's what they're trying to sell, and they're basically, you know, buying into the motor graders, beating everybody's bid. He, actually, Dean thought that if we did motor graders, he thought that we would probably get a cheaper, more economical bid than when we bid it the last time. Yeah, that's about split right now.
Well, if Dean knows this, and John Deere knows it too, are we gonna try to get the best price?
Well, I wouldn't, Deere doesn't know whether they're gonna, whether Cat's gonna bid it or not, I'm certainly not.
5 years, you don't have to buy it back from John
That's
Deere.
true, that's
This
true.
is just a buyback program, so over the course of 5 years, you get X amount of hours, they'll give you X percentage back minimum.
Yeah. That don't mean, yeah, in 5 years, that don't mean you gotta go back to Deere.
Yeah, you can buy it from them.
But that, we've got a guaranteed price they're gonna pay.
And that's a very good,
That's what
oh, yeah.
most counties are going with now. So I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully.
Yeah, those things may run their course too. I don't know, depending on what the world economy does.
Kevin and I should get something, we get long, and then y'all want to be interested in long or something, so we're bringing.
I don't know who else makes them, so I don't know if Komatsu
You
makes,
can come on to,
do they make graders? I know they make trenchers, I've seen those.
yeah, they got, nobody likes them.
The road graders.
How does your Volvo go they're gonna use. Or they were, I mean, they're gonna probably be lower than deer, I imagine. Is the service, they don't, do they have a 5-year buybacks or anything?
Supposedly Volvo does now. I really haven't discussed it with them a lot, but, their salesman said they do offer that now.
The buyback program.
5-year buyback.
The one advantage, it doesn't give you no competition per se, but, I mean, I think we need, before you bid, you need to be comfortable that if it comes in significantly lower, well, or even if it's their top of the line, it still don't match what job, I mean, you gotta weigh out whether or not you're gonna, you know, I mean, you're buying, hopefully getting a better machine, that's why you're paying for it.
I mean, I can certainly send one to Volvo, if you want me to.
I mean, we've had questions, I mean, what's your overall?
They're a cheaper machine,
I guess that'd be my, maybe, with that being said, we need to cut you off, but, you know, we're down at $4 grand, we don't have, you know, so, do you want something a little cheaper, with the higher possibility of it being down, and you don't have a spare?
to be honest with you, I don't want one. I want a cat or a deer is what I like to have. We just lost a motor in, Volvo, and if you talk to any of the counties around, they're all trying to get rid of them. Volvo is shifting all they're basically kind of getting out of the motor graders. They're, shifting, they're all gonna be made in China. So,
Don't bid, my own bid, so much cheaper.
well,
Well, if it's not gonna meet the specs for what we need, then there's no sense.
well, I'm not saying they can't meet specs, but it's gonna be an inferior machine. It's just cheaper.
But I think
There
for
are
the
two
other,
John Deere dealerships that we've got.
you're trying to get out of business, whether
What's
it's
that?
like 5
Is
years.
there two John Deere?
They won't step on each other's toes. This is, Murphy's territory, and they won't come out of the territory.
So we get out of both of them.
And we could always, doesn't mean we have to do something to this.
That's right.
But, Dean he thought pretty confident that we would get a pretty good bid from Deere right now.
So we had, the same route that John Deere, Scott.
Scott Williams.
Yeah, and we talked with him at all, or, you know,
I talked with him on the phone, he was supposed to come up and meet with him here sometime this week, but haven't said anything yet.
yeah.
We were going to get together there at the end of last week, and he had something came up, and he couldn't make it. Well, you find out something, let me know, and if not, I'll drive up there and see if I can at least make contact with him.
Last name is Rosewood. Rosewall.
Yeah.
Rosewall.
Rodewald. All right.
Yep, it is a nice day.
It's good business to wait till we get our finances, but if you got any money, we can go ahead and pay the truck, get it moving around. I would rather wait till we see what.
I think you guys spoke.
I've been, 2 weeks ago, he said, I called him and I asked him if he would hold it for 2 weeks, so I'm gonna have to call him and tell him that our,
Finance.
we'll know on the 10th, and I'll just see what he says. If he doesn't, he didn't have anybody lined up to buy right then, so it wasn't a problem. So unless he has somebody want it, I don't think it'll be a problem.
Unless they have to ship it back east. Well, it's no
Tell him
time there.
to bring it up in about a week from when Denver's through.
He told me when I first contacted him, he said he would bring it up if I wanted him to. He said, I'll bring it up, just leave it. But,
Well, the price is set, I mean, as far as you know what it's gonna be, just a matter of finding out sure what our interest rates are and stuff. Yeah, I just convey with you that.
we want to try,
That's, yeah, we.
try to figure out a plan.
Yeah, we got delayed a week, just explain, you know, hey, we know you can't, you know, if you can, okay, but if not, well, we'll just have to wait till the new one comes in and stuff.
Right. If they do get sold, there'll be more coming in April, so.
If I get a hold of this lady, you want me to give her your number, Pat, or what?
Yeah.
What's your number? I got it, but I want to look it up.
Alright. Kind of make an appointment for the 10th at 1:30, or whenever's open for bid on me.
Well, once there's chemical, you think it's still, you think 15 minutes?
Yeah,
Can we do it
give
at
it 15
2?
minutes.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock?
Open at 2 o'clock?
Mm.
Okay.
Do we have anything before?
Open to agree.
That was in the agenda, or
Great bid.
Okay,
Alright, 2 o'clock.
Is 1:30 our first scheduled appointment, Pauline?
1:15 we usually, I think by the time you get
How's it
here.
1:15?
Okay, 1:15.
1:15?
Because we'll just open them and then maybe have a brief discussion and then think about it and then probably possibly take action following week.
yeah, yeah. You do that, though.
Maybe. Could make a video that day too.
Yeah, if we get our finances in order,
It could be
what
all
the
day.
bid look like.
You'll get all work till 5, anyway, so.
I'm on salary, I'm 24/7.
Yeah, my schedule, they kind of screwed my schedule up for my training, and I thought I was gonna make at least one of the last 2 meetings, and right now, they split me up, they're taking me part of the week, which cuts Tuesday, then they start the next week, which cuts for Tuesday, so.
So next week,
If we, well, that would be the only thing, is if we schedule a special meeting, be a possibility I could be back on the 19th or 20th. We could have, possibly have a special meeting on the 20th. Because I'd be home 3-4 days before I go back.
Wait to be a Friday.
I'm gonna do a little checking on that today, or I'll be home tomorrow, let you guys know, so we have enough time to possibly put that in as a special meeting. Do you have anything, you may want to check your calendar too. It may be just meetings with 1 or 2 items to take care of. I throw that out just to help fulfill my duties. I know the last week is great, so
Have a good day.
I'll be in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Roll.
Everybody's spending money, first of the year.
2015, and payroll for days.
You get 14.
Yeah, 2014, that was 2015.
Yeah, you told me two thousand.
Sorry.
That's okay, I just wanted to make sure.
2014.
Well, you've gotta get used to using 2015, and it's hard to get adjusted.
I wrote a check the other day and I wrote 2014, so I was more
Yeah,
than
she did this first
kidding.
I bet they'd take it. You get more trouble if you make it 16.
True.
What years?
This year right now, 2015.
Don't worry, I dated something 2014 yesterday, 3 times.
It's hard, so you have to.
Some AT&T billing,
It's always funny, we always are looking.
sorry, I was gonna ask you, the AT&T bill on this one, so it's the same amount across the board, have you got that somewhat straightened out, or?
Yeah, that is the last one for 2014, so starting the next bill, like Wes said, we should have a credit on AT&T, so we should pay for quite a while. But, we'll see. And then I know he said that the internet and the IP flex is supposed to be charged to IT from now on.
Mhm.
We're all set, with our value, or 14-year value, always looking for a new year. So you'd think you're looking forward to 2015, so it'd just be easy to put it in there. Because we just got this momentum. You're like me, I get to write a bunch of checks at one time, you know, you want to get done this early, so you don't even think about those long term. Then I'll misspell the wording, or you have to write the dollar amount. How's your new vehicle working out?
You done, I love it.
Good.
And I just bought it. I closed on it Friday.
Wow.
Been working on it all weekend and hopefully move in Friday.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Is that one TV show saying, "Who don't know?"
They paid it for like $200 cheaper than what I was paying in rent. Yeah, so.
No, right, and I'm telling that, well, you got whatever responsibility, but sure, everybody.
But you got your own van.
Get to do whatever I want.
You would get to do whatever you want to, but you're also getting to do a lot of things you don't want to.
Yeah, I found out already.
CAC system, everything running as expected?
Yeah, we're still waiting, to hear back from James so we can finish the W-2s.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what's our schedule on that?
Yeah, we're hoping, Jamie and I are supposed to start on them today, so we're hoping we can get them sent out tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it all depends on how everything goes on the CSC side.
Now, was it held up, or, I mean, was there something that was holding up
Yeah,
getting
they-
those?
Jamie had to go in and manually change a whole bunch of stuff because it was all wrong. The deduction codes and different stuff.
So did you finish your degree? You had graduated, or you?
Yeah, and I start my master's in March.
Good.
Yeah, might as well finish. Not looking forward to my student loans, so.
Well, you be careful about them degrees, you know the story. got a BS degree, don't you?
Yeah.
You know what BS stands for?
Right.
You know what MS stands for?
What?
More of the same. Now, you know what PhD stands for? Pile higher, deeper.
What's JD stand for?
What?
What's JD stand for?
JD?
Juris Doctor.
Oh.
That's Dutch.
Just delinquent.
I could put something else in.
You saw this? You?
Do you hear that, Pauline? He
What?
not doing it because of her. He didn't say.
She gave you that. That's 2015. Let me get ahead the W-2s out.
Yeah, we've had a lot of phone calls. A lot.
So now, do those have to be physically printed and mailed out, or those emailed to you now,
You
or?
know, we sent it from Mountain Circle to envelopes, and, I think we're gonna send them to department heads. So, send them out, but hopefully by Friday, no matter what, so.
Yeah, you're glad you got time.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Oh, Courtney, one question for you. District Court,
Yeah.
entering in invoices.
Yeah, she brought down a whole bunch of bills to me, and we sent them back up and told her that she needed to put account numbers on them at least, and she had to bring them down and say that she didn't know the account numbers, so she wasn't gonna enter them. So,
That's when you take them all back up from the state. I mean,
I think we're getting to the point where I think we need to start entering in
especially
bills.
on the
and
budget
possessions.
sheet, Jamie put, every account number's on that budget sheet, and you just have to look, and it's hard. But she says that it's the most of the time to do it, so, I don't know.
Do we need to send letter notification?
I think so, because everybody else is, you know,
Everybody else
it was a
is-
change, it was a change, we looked at, and everybody else is, I mean, if it, I don't know how many you looked at, but I mean, I don't think it's that excessive. I mean,
Yeah.
can't be that many.
Give me that money, yeah.
No, she brought 8 down yesterday. And I told her, I think if you don't even write down the account numbers, I don't have a problem doing it for you, but she won't.
Do you have those invoices in the end? Would you go to bring those up to us, please?
Yes. They're right there, actually.
Oh, okay. They're not entered in?
They're entered in.
They are entered in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you still want them?
Yes.
we have authority to tell them.
They've had training on how to enter this.
No, that's not what our Pat,
From what I
we have
understand,
authority to tell Don we would like for her to enter in her own way.
And you think they've had training as well?
I don't know, guys, new car, new house, we need that to figure this out. Huh? That's what I'm saying. You was such a hot shot. You was such a hot.
I'll be honest with you.
Did you keep Bill in your house?
I see what you're talking about.
It's used, isn't it?
That clay is thousands of years old. That's right.
Some might even say older than that.
That's true. By millions of years old. In the aggregate. good, then. Millions of years old.
I may have missed some, but here, they're right here, I
Oh,
don't
he's
have
right
their
there.
account number here, and
Uh-huh.
she'll come back up with nothing.
No one has a number at the top.
I wrote that up with
Seven hundred and
one
one
of the,
property tax.
and then the vendor ID number.
If you get the rebate, sooner or later, it's gonna back up.
So you've already entered these.
Yeah.
Well, 640, 50
I know, Wes and I both wanted to even show real review, but, no.
We have a copy of these, we can send the results back.
And, I think I asked you this before, Jamie kind of showed me a little bit when she had them turn their really good day.
Yeah.
That's what I took the 6 numbers.
You got a good secretary, you.
You talked to them a few times. Can't run through.
You going out
the-
to the shop, he had something on the 30th,
Did that?
for half, on the 30th. Did Matt have a return form for that on the 30th?
He's already retired.
I'm pretty calm.
He left in December. He left away from there.
Oh, I'm thinking, never mind, I'm thinking about splitting my already worked out your time.
We invited to that, we invited to that too.
And just don't be, it ain't gonna be much down there, maybe some Kevin and
I
something.
think I would, you want to look at this.
I'm gonna try to find it.
Washington State did something.
He's from, look, this,
Well, they're celebrating 100 years of doing it this way.
These last two. Yes, please. We should come all against separate, no, no, different days.
I think it's this part.
Because what she said, we gave the thinking that she wrote the account number down for
I
us.
just love to read this.
And she wants, so that we know what to do.
To me, I'd be like, in a week or whatever, or 2 weeks, if she's turning them all in at the same time,
Right.
why not write one sheet? Is that, you see that? You know,
A lot of paper waste. It's on it, doing all the stuff out of town.
Fees that we have.
okay, we'll send notifications. We'll send-
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too.
That's what, hey, no, this, state of Washington, this is kind of how they prompt their voters and the candidates, look at, and they send that out.
Every letter.
Mm-hmm.
Every vote.
And then that was last November, 2010 census, because it had presidential candidates.
They put out something, I guess if they put out something like that, they shouldn't be allowed to have voter app, I mean, you shouldn't have, you wouldn't need, you wouldn't have to have a campaign, would you?
Well, Oregon is strictly mail-in ballots, don't they?
Well, that's what Washington is too.
They just do mail-in.
Mm-hmm.
I say it saves tons of like money, but I can't tell you,
Uh-huh.
What percent?
just doing strictly mail-in ballots, we've got technology now where we can still do it in person or electronically, significant ID system.
I
It
don't know.
opens another can.
I mean, offer that to vote.
I never heard of this thing.
It'd be interesting to go.
This, the mail-in?
Now,
I thought I'd heard that counter or something like that, because you would have the polls and you're just mailing it back in, you don't have the poll.
well, you don't even have to mail it in, they have boxes where you can deposit them.
Oh, yeah. See, that's where the savings is like all the, you know, having those physical people at the polls to, I've heard that argument, I can't say, I don't
Well,
disagree with
they
you.
say that there's more of a turnout,
What's that heard?
displays in there.
Speaking of boxes, they get your name set, you know? They get your name set.
I don't know, I didn't hear it.
I guess probably. Did they announce any name for the conference center?
I think he was just trying to promote it,
I don't think they've picked a name yet, have they? I think they were just telling you that they're, the conference.
rename, yeah, City of Athens, trying to rename it.
I overheard one, somebody in my case said money pit.
It's Jack, I think.
What did Jack mean?
Money Pit. We tried to dress it up a little bit and call it the Monet Pit.
That's the county.
Oh, I didn't.
The lead.
So that's, okay, so
So
each,
what if the state of Washington?
What else do we have for us?
county, so each county does that.
Oh, I got it.
So you have just another county.
We need an
that
next
stays
session,
with
yeah,
you.
oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The, there's something else that we needed to
Well,
know too.
most, all of those is this, association, this Secretary of State's office.
Oh, okay,
So,
So.
15 minutes, straight line.
You gotta be somewhere, you gotta go change your job.
I have a meeting at 5:30.
Okay. I think I'll wait, executive session, attorney client for 15 minutes.
That's, excuse me,
I don't think we have anything else.
No, I don't have anything.
How many minutes?
15. So for
And
record.
I will move to adjourn afterwards too.
I second that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Get the word out if you would please for the 10th.
Sure, I got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And, yeah, they want to put the orders in so they can specifically get what they want.
Like,
They're gonna get what's on
Ross,